Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are unpacking a stunning, honestly mind-boggling paradox. I want you to picture this. India's financial capital, a mega city that generates billions of dollars every single year, completely grinding to a halt every single monsoon. The roads literally disappear underwater, trains stop running, flights are grounded, homes are damaged, and businesses just shut down. It's a stark reality that happens like absolute clockwork, year after year.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Why does one of Asia's richest cities drown every year? It's a huge question, because despite its incredible wealth, its immense economic power, and decades of grand promises from leadership, Mumbai is consistently defeated by a completely predictable seasonal event. I mean, the monsoon isn't a surprise, right? Yet the problem simply refuses to go away. Today, we're going to use our source material to map out exactly why that is.
Just look at how normalized and routine this timeline has become. In June, the monsoon arrives. By July, the city predictably floods, disrupting millions of lives. Then, in August, politicians step up, they make sweeping promises, new committees are formed, and big new budgets are announced. And then, well, everyone just kind of moves on until the cycle repeats exactly the same way the following year. Citizens literally check rainfall forecasts and issue work-from-home advisories as if catastrophic, knee-deep flooding is just a standard part of the corporate work week. It's an absurd irony of modern urban life. Which brings us to a really poignant thought from the material. When failure becomes routine, urgency disappears. This really captures the profound psychological toll this cycle takes on the city. You see, when an infrastructure failure becomes an expected, totally normal part of the calendar year, that desperate, immediate need to fix it, it somehow just evaporates. The apathy that settles in when citizens just expect their city to fail might actually be one of the biggest hurdles to finally fixing the problem.
Section 1. Physical causes. Geography meets concrete.
To really grasp this, we have to look back at the city's historical landscape. Historical Mumbai wasn't originally one large, continuous piece of land. It was actually a collection of 7 distinct islands, featuring plenty of open land that provided natural absorption for heavy rainfall. But over time, those islands were connected through massive land reclamation projects. Today, much of this colossal metropolis sits directly on reclaimed, low-lying land surrounded by the Arabian Sea, heavily paved over with concrete. The natural buffers have completely vanished, leaving the city dangerously exposed whenever heavy rain decides to coincide with high tide. And one of those critical, vanishing buffers is the mangrove forest. Think of mangroves as essentially nature's built-in flood protection system. They are incredibly effective at absorbing excess water like a giant sponge, slowing down storm surges from the sea, and significantly reducing the overall risk of flooding. But relentless development pressures have severely damaged these crucial environmental buffers. By removing these forests to build more infrastructure, the city has actively, piece by piece, destroyed its own natural defense system against rising waters. And this brilliantly illustrates what we can call the Swiss cheese factors of flooding. When examining the source, it becomes crystal clear that it's never just one single thing. It's multiple layers of failure aligning perfectly to create an unavoidable disaster. You have an aging drainage system, rapidly expanding concrete surfaces blocking absorption, those lost mangrove forests we just discussed, and massive amounts of plastic waste actively clogging up the waterways. When all these holes in the system line up, the water has literally nowhere to go but up. Let's zoom in on that first major physical factor for a second, the aging drains. Much of Mumbai's drainage system was designed decades ago for a much smaller, far less crowded city. Now, factor in that massive concrete expansion we talked about. As concrete covers up roads, giant parking lots, and huge commercial complexes, rainwater literally has nowhere to naturally soak into the ground. Instead, all of that water rapidly rushes directly into this severely overloaded, antiquated drainage system.
Section 2. The human causes. Garbage and the accountability void.
But nature and old pipes are only half the story here. Civic behavior directly impacts infrastructure, and it happens in a very predictable chain. First, the public discards plastic waste. This garbage quickly piles up, filling the waterways and nullas. Next, those already aging drains we mentioned become entirely clogged. And finally, with nowhere else to go, the water backs up straight into the streets. Listen, even the most advanced, ridiculously expensive drainage system in the world is going to fail when its pathways are choked with plastic wrappers and discarded bottles. It's a stark reminder that infrastructure fails much faster when public behavior works directly against it. Then we have the leadership and bureaucratic response. Post-flood, we see the exact same political actions. Politicians visit the affected zones, strong statements are made, new projects are grandly announced, and investigations are promised. But the actual results are starkly different. We see incredibly slow implementation of any long-term solutions, paired with constantly growing public frustration. Maintaining a totally neutral lens here, it highlights a very reactive nature of leadership, prompting citizens to ask a very fair question. Why are these solutions continually discussed after the floods have caused devastation, rather than before the monsoon even arrives? Now, what's really interesting about this slide is it exposes a fundamental flaw in the bureaucracy: massive institutional overlap. Just look at how many entities share responsibility for this single issue. You've got municipal authorities, state governments, central agencies, urban planners, private contractors, and environmental regulators. It is a massive, tangled web of organizations, all theoretically in charge of managing development and keeping the city dry. But that tangled web creates a massive, massive problem. When responsibility is spread everywhere, accountability completely disappears. Because multiple agencies share the oversight, the blame just gets passed around, and accountability becomes incredibly diluted. Citizens clearly see the institutional breakdown. They see the flooded streets and the halted trains right in front of them, but they rarely see any individual or specific agency face actual consequences for the repeated failures.
Section 3. The climate multiplier.
As if the local challenges weren't enough to deal with, global climate change is fundamentally altering the rainfall patterns for the entire city. It means more rain is falling in significantly shorter periods of time. These extreme weather events take all the existing weaknesses we've just discussed, the aging drains, the lost mangroves, the concrete surfaces, the clogged waterways, and exposes them absolutely mercilessly. The sheer volume of sudden water makes a complete rethink of urban planning absolutely critical going forward.
Section 4. Can Mumbai fix this?
This brings us to the most optimistic part of our explainer. Because yes, other global cities have solved this, and we already have the blueprint to break the cycle. Step 1 requires serious long-term urban planning rather than reactive seasonal fixes. Step 2 is heavily modernizing the drainage systems to actually handle the current population and modern weather realities. Step 3 involves strictly protecting and restoring those vital mangrove forests we talked about earlier. And finally, Step 4 requires smarter waste management alongside highly regulated, sustainable urban development. So the crucial point is this: the technology exists, the engineering exists, and for a city generating billions of dollars, the money largely exists too. The real question here is execution. This isn't some unsolvable, mysterious weather problem that defies modern science. Not at all. It is ultimately a matter of consistent political will and focused long-term execution. Which leaves us with one final provocative question to close out this explainer. How many more monsoons will it take before things finally change? As you think about the evidence we've mapped out today, ask yourself what the ultimate culprit really is. Is it the sheer population pressure? The undeniable reality of climate change? Or is it the persistent lack of accountability in the systems meant to protect the city? It's a heavy question, and it's one that the citizens of Mumbai have to face every single year. Thank you so much for joining me, and I encourage you to keep exploring the realities behind the infrastructure we rely on every day. See you next time.